Well, hello, Stampers. It's the Pampered Stamper, and welcome to Tuesday's video, and it's called Stories and Stamps. I believe this is number 4 in the series, and I started this series because people had questions about how Gerard and I met. So I thought, why not give you the full picture? Our love story wouldn't have happened without my parents' love story, and now we're at the point where little Jacomina, so that's my real name in Dutch, Jacomina here in Canada, and I actually use that name a fair bit now in Holland because they can't say Jackie in Holland. That A sound doesn't work, so they often say Jackie or Yeki or something, and it sounds awful. So I've decided they know perfectly well how to say Jacomina, and that sounds really nice. So when I started kindergarten and the teacher did the roll call, and she said Jacomina boot. Oh no, she just said Jacomina, and I'm like, who's that? And no one put their hand up, and then she kind of looked at me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. So what I'm going to do is tell the story of my life growing up on the farm right up to my first trip to Holland. And my first memory is when I think I was about 5 years old, and I'm thinking, well, some people have memories way earlier than that. But my first clear memory is my 5th birthday party, and my present was one of those plastic pools. It might have been 4 feet in diameter. It was hard plastic. And I remember my birthday is June 8th, and that could be a nice day, and it must have been a fairly nice day. And we had a fairly big front porch on our farmhouse. It was kind of an L-shaped front porch with a narrow section in front of the big window from the kitchen, and then a bigger section that butted up against the living room. And so in that bigger section, I remember wearing a cute little pink bathing suit, and my friend Henry came over with his mom, and we were splashing around in that little pool, and I was so excited, so excited. So anyway, that's interesting. And I do remember my mom used to put a lot of effort into birthday parties. The thing is, my mom isn't a gift giver. She never really was a gift giver. But she did like to plan parties, and we had little games. And I remember the porch had kind of a railing around it, but it was like a solid wall with a little ledge on top. And there was a game that we played, and then she hid candies under a cup, but only, or one of the cups had candies in it, and then she would turn them all around and switch them. And then we were, I don't know if we were blindfolded when this happened, and then we had to, no, I don't think we were, and then we had to guess which cup had the candies under it. That's the only game that I remember. And often we would go swimming. My friends would come over, and mom would take us all to the Elora Gorge conservation area, and there was a swimming hole there, and we would go swimming if the weather was decent. And I know one year it rained, but that park had a pavilion with a big covered porch, and we ran around there, and there was a little concession store, and you could buy candy for like 5 cents and 10 cents, and I thought I was the richest girl on earth. And every once in a while, we would be able to get like French fries or something, and that was the biggest feast ever. Now, I'm going to intersperse my stories with some stamps. So we're going to look, I got my order in, and one of the things in the box was the in color pattern paper. So we have Starry Sky, and I'll flip it over in a minute. So we have a little floral pattern, and then on the other side is a really nice stripe. And this is still Starry Sky, nice plaid, and a little dot. So these are really wonderful patterns to have. Here's Parakeet Party, that are just great to combine. You know, they're neutral, and they're little, and you could probably even combine them with our other pattern paper. So the same patterns for all the colors. This is Orchid Oasis, and this one is Tahitian Tide. So we've got the stripe, the flower, the plaid, and the polka dot. And then this one is Sweet Sorbet. So nice paper. Okay, so that's Exhibit A. Back to the story. So our farmhouse, I still have a weakness for farmhouses. Our farmhouse was a 2-story red brick gabled house on the top of a beautiful hill overlooking a valley and forest in the distance. And it was just really fun to live in that house. And I mean, it was freezing cold upstairs. There was a coal stove for the longest time. We had a basement and it had a big section that was full of black coal, and that was my first memory of heat. And I do remember like in the waking up in the morning in the wintertime, and you had to scrape the frost off the window to make an and breathe on it to create a little hole so you could look outside to see if it had snowed the night before. And I slept with thick sleep socks, and they were like thick wool socks that were laced up like skates. And when you first went to sleep, I slept with my head under the covers till I warmed up. And then even then the blankets got pulled right over your nose, just your eyes were sticking up. And I remember heavy blankets. My parents had wool blankets from Holland. And I still, for the longest time, loved sleeping under heavy blankets. Finally, now I love sleeping under a duvet. There was a big hedge that went from the house to the farm, and it was about, I would say it was about 300 feet at least from the house to the farm. It was a fair walk, and I remember we had a light outside. We called it the buitenlicht, which means the outside light. And sometimes that light got turned off and then it would be dark. And I remember just being so scared to walk from the barn to the house, especially in the wintertime. And sometimes there would be just a thick, skinny path shoveled out from the snow. And I remember always running as fast as I could because I was afraid that a wolf or a fox or something would get me. Even though, yeah, anyway, those were my childhood nightmares. We also had, because we had the big hill, I went to a little Christian school, and that school was about a mile down the road. And every year, right before the Christmas holidays, the whole school would come to the farm for a tobogganing party. And my mother, bless her heart, would set up a station in our basement. And the basement had low ceilings. It had exposed wooden beams. And then it had that coal in the one corner and a great big beast of a furnace. And my mom would make big pots, great big pans of hot chocolate. We had a dairy farm, so it was just milk, and then Mom would make a slurry with cocoa powder and sugar and water, and then she would stir that all in. So this was not the hot chocolate that city kids had, you know, the Nesquik powder where you mixed it in. Now this was the real hot cocoa, and Mom had enough for the whole school. I don't know, it must have been about 100 kids. And she would have cookies. So everybody would come and warm up in the basement between tobogganing down the hill. And we as kids loved it because after the tobogganing party was over, we had really great runs. It was, and so we could, and the older kids in grade 7 and 8 would build ramps for the toboggans. And so you would go down the hill and then the toboggan would go over the ramp and you go flying through the air. And the trick was to not hit the fence at the bottom of the hill, because the creek was fenced off so that the cows wouldn't get all muddy and wreck their udders and stuff. Yeah, and sometimes if it snowed really hard, then there would be snowbanks that went right over the fence. And then you could go with the toboggan all the way over the fence, and you wanted to be careful that you didn't land in the creek. So lots of exciting times growing up on the farm. Let's see what else is in my box. Okay, this is not out of the new catalog, but I finally got the faux sea glass. They were back ordered for the longest time. Let's just take it out. They are so pretty. This will work really well with the On the Horizon suite. And isn't that nice? Yeah, so this will be really pretty for cards and tags, scrapbook pages, you name it. And then the other thing, now this doesn't look like an exciting package, but these are, oh no, these are adhesive sheets. That's not what I was thinking that they would be. I know that we have masking sheets, and I don't know if that's what that is. I'm gonna look some more. I'm gonna have to do my homework about that. Maybe I ordered the wrong thing. And I finally ordered Eclectic Garden. It was in the catalog. And this bird looks just like one of the most famous birds in Holland, and I forget what it's called, but I love birds, and I love the sayings in here, and I thought it would be really fun to color with blends. So I did get this set. I like the little scribbly set stamps, and I just love the saying, I just don't know what I'd do without you. So you might want that one too. Okay, back to my story. Let's see. So what other things did I have that I loved about growing on the farm? Do you remember the snowstorms that we had in the 1970s? I remember we had a storm so big, so we had so much snow that it completely covered the hedge that went between the farmhouse and the barn. And we tunneled and built a big snow fort under the hedge. It was so exciting. we couldn't see the farm, the barn from the house. It was like we were living in this great big igloo. It was so exciting. And that meant days off of school. And one of my favorite things to do on the farm in the wintertime. And that's why I think I love winter. It's associated with really good memories for me. We would play up in the haymow in the upper floor of the barn, in the second story of the barn. So there was a section where there was hay and there was a section where there was straw. But I don't ever remember the name straw mow. It's always called the hay mow. But actually, we loved and we preferred to make our forts in the straw because hay was too scratchy. Hay did smell nice though, and we would build tunnels through the bales of straw, and then we would open up a section and make a fort. And in that fort, we'd make benches out of straw bales, and we'd bring our flashlight because, of course, it was dark, and we were always afraid there might be a mouse or a rat. And that was a great place too. We would sometimes take some food, some cookies or whatever, and then we would sit in there and talk and tell secrets, and it was a lot of fun. The other great thing about growing up on a farm is that there were always kittens. We always had barn cats, and they had kittens. And it was so much fun to discover the nest and to play with the kittens and to name them and to give them milk and feeding the calves. Now, we didn't think, growing up on the farm, I didn't think calves were all that cute because we were used to them. But my friends did, and they loved to come and help feed the calves. We'd give them milk out of a pail. Because on a dairy farm, the calves never really drank from their mother. They got the milk in a pail because the milk from the cows, most of it was sold, right? So they didn't seem to mind. And those were the good things about growing up on the farm. Now, there wasn't all great things on the farm. Growing up on the farm, and this is the segue to my holiday in Holland, growing up on a farm meant really no family vacations. Because my dad, the cows had to be milked twice a day. It was a huge job, and the barn had to be cleaned, and the crops had to be taken care of. So to get someone else to take care of that for you, there were very few farmers that did that. Um, yeah, so my dad, the big thing for us as kids is that once a year in the summertime, my father would take one day and we would go, it was our family day, and we would do something special. We would go on a day trip. One time I remember we went to Dundurn Castle and the Royal Botanical Gardens. Another time we went to the Lion Safari. Another time we went to Niagara Falls. And that was really special, having a whole day with my dad, with the whole family. And oftentimes on those trips, a speeding ticket would be involved because inevitably we would leave a little bit later than what my mom had hoped for, and then my dad would be in a hurry. And yeah, usually we would get a speeding ticket. So my dad would always say, I don't have a great fondness for police officers. When he got older, his saying about that was a little stronger. We won't repeat that. So I was lucky enough that as a teenager, before that, when I was 12 and 13, I got to go with my friend Sharon and her family. We went camping. Once was in Rockwood and once was in Long Point. And that was like for a whole week or 5 days. I think it was 5 days, 5 or 6 days. And I loved it, loved camping. It was so much fun. It was so nice experiencing summer as a normal person. So I'm going to show you some more stamps. Oh yeah, the other thing before I forget, the other drawback to be growing up on a farm in the summertime is that it was hard work. We had to pick stones before the crops could get seeded, and I hated picking stones. And there were stones every year, and so many, and you have dirty hands, and dry and dusty and heavy, and that field was just endless. Our farm was 100 acres, and I'd say 95 of them had to be picked. Well, maybe not, maybe 90. There was a good meadow for the cows that we didn't have to be picking stones. Then we had to bale hay and we had to bale straw. Hay, usually there were 3 cuts of hay, and then straw was just once. And all those bales had to be on the wagon. They had to be unloaded from the wagon and put in the hay mow. And then we had to milk cows and feed calves, and it was hot in the barn, and there were a lot of flies. And yeah, so not a whole lot of time for doing fun things. Now, my mom did take us swimming at the gorge. Sometimes in the afternoon, we would go for a couple hours, and that was great. That was a lot of fun. And sometimes we'd go to the Shan Dam. And then with my friend, when I was a little older, I would go there and we'd go swimming in the quarry. But that always kind of scared me a little bit because I was not a good swimmer. And the quarry, of course, is just like a deep pit. So I wouldn't go too far from the edge. And my biggest thing that I was so proud of is jumping off the edge of the quarry into the water. Like that scared the bejeebers out of me. And then I was like, oh my goodness, can I hold my breath long enough to get back to the top? And then I have to swim to the side. But there was a lot of peer pressure because everyone was doing it. The difference is they loved it and I just did it because I needed to fit in. I never really loved it. I was always scared, but I didn't tell everybody that. Okay. Let's see what else is in the box. I got these embossing folders, stripes and splatters 3D embossing folders, and they're skinny ones. They're not a full size. They're thick, and they go through the little mini embossing machine if you want that. They work fine in the big one as well. Okay, I got some more of the slimline envelopes, which I really love. They were in the mini catalog. Let me see if I can cut that open. And I was really happy to see them carried over because I love making slimline cards, and these envelopes are just beautiful. You can put them in a business envelope too, but if you're making a special card for a special occasion, it really is nice to put it in a beautiful, thick envelope. So this comes in the mint macaron, in smoky slate, and in white. Let's see. Like I'm thinking like a wedding card. Isn't that pretty? And then the gray. Yeah. So that's that. And then I did get He's the Man, which He's All That. This is from the He's the Man suite. And I just love it. I love these things. Together for the long haul. Happy birthday to a classic, to the man who does everything. And this is a rubber stamp, okay? And the difference between rubber and photopolymer is that rubber will last a whole lifetime. Photopolymer, about 20 years. Yeah, I know, it's long enough, right? Holy smokes, you're amazing. This is great for the barbecuer, for the traveler, the camper, the guy who likes cars. It's just really nice. I also got this one, Brewed for You. I owe you one or several, so you've got beer and wine. I just think it's really nice. Yeah. So, on to the story. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. I'm using my laptop. So what else do I have to tell you? Okay, yes. So this all hinges on the fact you have to remember that when my parents immigrated to Canada, they left behind most of their family. Okay, so my dad was one of 9, and 7 brothers and sisters remained in Holland. My mom was one of 14. However, of those 14, 2 little boys died in infancy. One was almost 2. He had a heart condition. And the other one died, I don't know if it was crib death. I'll have to ask Mom. So technically, I suppose she was one of 12 living children, and 10 remained in Holland. So you can see I had a huge family in Holland, which is why my parents chose to speak Dutch at home. We spoke back in English to them. We never spoke Dutch with my parents. The only time we spoke Dutch was when we had relatives visiting from Holland. So, and I was expected to write a letter about once a month to my Oma. And then when I was 14, my parents said, you know what? We never have holidays as a family. So you get to go to Holland with your sister. So I was 14. My sister is 8 years older than me. So she was 22. And we stayed. So the idea was always that we had to divide our time between my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family. And they live about an hour apart. And my mom's side of the family all lived in town, so they were considered city folk. And my dad's family lived in Zeeland on the island, and they were all country folk. They were all farmers, and they enjoyed hunting and fishing and the land. So it was quite a cultural difference. So we got to stay with my tante Nell in Maasdijk. Actually in Schravenzonde. She lived in Schravenzonde, which is where Gerard is from. And she was, I think, 10 years younger than my mom, 11. And so hip. I remember thinking, oh my goodness, she listened to ABBA. She wore cool clothes. I was just like, oh my goodness, this is just great. And she had a daughter, Karina, who was my age, and a son, Jan Willem, who was 3 years older than me, and then 2 younger kids, Ron and Sylvia. And I just loved being there. And the thing is, like, they had so much freedom. She was allowed to wear pants to church. I was like, wow. And the music that they listened to, and I remember going out on bikes, and we were going to go out on a weekend, and it was like 10 o'clock before we finally left. I didn't think we were going anywhere anymore. Well, it wasn't cool to go out early. And the drinking age in Holland was 16, and I was 14. But both my cousin and I could pass for older, and they didn't ask any questions. So I remember feeling super grown up and having my first drinks there and meeting a boy and I think first kiss. Well, I don't know if it was my first kiss, but pretty close. And then he wanted to bike me home and he wanted to hold hands. And I'm like, you don't get it. I'm Canadian. I've had a drink. I don't know. I need to have both hands on the steering wheel. I'm not holding hands and biking with you. I'm afraid we're going to crash or something. It was really funny. So yeah, my experience of Holland was just a lot of fun. And so Tontanel has always been associated with my trips to Holland. It was just, yeah, mind blowing. The other thing is that I remember when the plane was coming down, when we were going to land at Schiphol in Amsterdam, and I was looking down at all the fields and everything, and I had a feeling that I was coming home. No idea that I would ever come to live in that country, but it was so neat. And so that's how I became familiar with Holland, with all my cousins and my aunts and uncles there, and I fell in love with it. And I remember the fashion in Holland was always a couple years ahead of in Canada. And mini skirts were all the rage there. So everyone was wearing mini skirts. So my sister and I each bought a mini skirt. In fact, I think I bought two. One was polka dot and ruffly, and the other one was a kind of a tighter mini skirt of a khaki, kind of like a not denim, but a thick cotton. And I remember my mom's face because we wore them on the plane going home because we were so excited to be all hip and cool and walking through Toronto airport and everyone looking at us. And I'm thinking, oh, I think those skirts were a little shorter. I don't think I wore those skirts very often back in Canada. Maybe going to the beach. My mother was not impressed. But it was, yeah, really good memories. So we're going to end up with few more things out of my box. I have some dies here. Oh, those are the teacup dies. And then the Sending Smiles. Let's have a look. Okay, yeah. So I've showed you this stamp set in Dutch. Now I'm going to show it to you in English. So thank you for your friendship. Take care of yourself. The little words are meant to go on the little tea bag tag. Sweet, I miss you. I just can't thank you enough. It's time for tea. I love this set, and it comes with beautiful paper. And then these sets I have in Holland, but I figured I need them here as well. I did a blog post on these just the other day. And what else do I have in here that I don't have? Oh yeah, I did see I have these, which are really cool. They are the In Color Matte Decorative Dots. Now, I don't see, I'm going to open this up because I don't see 5 colors. Maybe they don't come in all 5. Let's have a look. So if you're watching on YouTube, I hope that you take the time. There it is. Look at that, how pretty. So that's really nice. That coordinates then with the paper, the cardstock, the ink. It's really nice. When you have everything that coordinates, you can make beautiful things. So I highly recommend it. But I lost my train of thought. I'm hoping that if you're watching on YouTube that you click on the red subscribe button and leave a comment because I love interacting with you. This is only, my doing stuff on YouTube is only as good as the interaction that we get together. So anyway, I have pre-recorded this. I hope it goes up goes up on time. I pre-recorded it because my grandkids are coming over this morning and I figured it's going to be too noisy. So I was looking forward to doing a live video, but it's not going to work. So thank you for joining me today for my stories and stamps. I'm not going to open up any more dies. I will show you more stuff next time. Oh yeah, here, maybe we'll finish off with this paper. This is the man paper. He's the man. And so this is like the barbecue paper. It's got a cow and a pig and the flames and the barbecue tools. And then the other side has just a nice stripe. Looks like Cajun craze. And then here we have the ties and the mustache. So this is the retro dashing man thing. See, and then with a really nice little subtle plaid. Then we have the cars, the classic cars. Should be great for Gerard. And then on the other side, we have a nice little subtle dash and dot kind of thing. I've seen beautiful cards made with this. This is a nice diamond pattern. Let's see. So it's very classic. These look like little, I don't know if they're to be cut. They try to get, oh, look at, they pop right out. Isn't that nice? Oh, I love that. This is great for scrapbooking as well. Oh, this is fantastic. We haven't had something like this yet, so this is new. I love this. I haven't got to do a class with that one. And then we have this camping paper. Isn't that great? And then on the other side, we have a really nice espresso plaid. Okay, that's a wrap, guys. I now have to, let me just trans to this. I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. I'm loving the feedback that you're giving me. I appreciate you. I hope that if you live in Canada, that you will shop with me. All the links will be in the description of the video. And otherwise, check out my blog, thepamperedstamper.com, and you can buy my PDF tutorials. You can also shop with me in Europe because I'm also a Dutch demonstrator. So, you know what? I can only stay in business if you shop with me. And I appreciate all the comments. And I just hope that we can continue this journey together. Have a super day. Bye.